Right, okay guys, so as you can tell by the title, I've made a purchase and I've picked up one of these, the Acorn Electron. Now you might be asking yourself, number one, why have you bought that, Lee? And number two, what is that? I've never even heard of it. So, in a nutshell, and I believe this was 1983, if I'm right, I'm sure it was 83. This was brought out as a cut down, cheaper version or alternative, if you like, to the BBC Micro. Now, I'll be honest, back in the day when I was playing this, I had no idea of that. Thanks to Cy Ginger Hippie Gaming, who's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to micros, I've been educated on this recently. So, yeah, it was a cut down version of the BBC Micro. And now you might be asking yourself, why is that? Well, for starters, the BBC Micro was quite a big device, but also it had quite a big price tag to it too. So as a result, a lot of people weren't buying these for home use. They were only being used in the schools. Unless you went to the school I went to, we never had them for some strange reason. It was a government scheme that for some reason we never had. I don't understand why. But I hear from a lot of other people these were in their schools. So basically what happened was people at home started going for cheaper devices. And this is where your ZX Spectrums, your Commodore 64s and your Amstrads and things like that started coming in. Because the Micro had quite an expensive price tag. But like I say, it was also massive. And if you started putting add-ons on, it got out of control very quickly. So Acorn decided, well, how are we going to get in on this side of the market? Well, the answer to that was the Acorn Electron. Now, I don't know if you can tell all that well from this, like looking now on the video, but this is very small. It's got a very small form factor. In fact, looking at it, I'd say it's, half the size, like top to bottom of a Commodore 64C. And you're probably looking a third smaller side to side, maybe. You know, it's quite a compact system. Now, to answer the question, why have you bought one of these, Lee? Well, number one, you know I like my micros, right? But number two, I played on one of these years ago. I used to go to a youth club and they had one of these hooked up to an old black and white portable TV. And I distinctively remember playing this certain game. And it's funny because I couldn't figure out in recent times what that game was. And so I did a little bit of research and I've now realised that game was Starship Command. Now, the thing that helped me differentiate that from other games was that there's a part in the game where you can launch an escape pod out of the ship. And it was that helped me differentiate what this game was. So, and obviously, you know, like we all are, after a certain amount of time in your life, you know, nostalgia starts taking over and you want to play these again. You know, it happened with me with the Commodore 64. So, yeah, it started happening with the Acorn Electron. And I thought, yeah, I really want to play that game again. So that's why I picked one up. Now, I'm not going to lie, this wasn't cheap. It wasn't massively expensive either, but it wasn't cheap. There is a reason for that. I could have got it for probably £30 less than I paid for it. But if you had seen the state of them, you wouldn't have wanted them. Cases were cracked. They were yellow to hell. Keys looked like, you know, someone had just rubbed mud all into the keyboard. Whereas, as you can see with this one, it's in very nice condition. Now, you might be thinking, looking at this, well, it looks yellowed anyway. Well, not really. I mean, these did have a cream colour to them. So it's about right. It's maybe a little bit darker than it should be. But as you can see, the logo or the label looks perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. And what I like about this system is the keyboard. I don't know if you can hear this. It's got that real mechanical feel to it, you know. It doesn't feel like a membrane. Now that is the interesting thing with this, right? This system was made to be cheap. However, it's got a really nice keyboard on it, which is very unusual. I mean, if you look at other systems, you know, if you go back to, say, the Spectrum, you know, when you had the early Spectrum with the rubber keys, you know, and dodgy membranes, whereas you look at this, which is also meant to be cheap, and they managed to get a decent keyboard. It's got a lovely sound to it. Listen to that. You know, they got a decent keyboard in this thing. So it's amazing how they've done it. Now, I am going to say this system did flop. It did flop. But I've got to be honest, I'm kind of a little bit like Si on this. You know, I've got a bit of an affinity with certain systems that were failed. And this is definitely one of them. Now, I could go down the route of getting a data set, because obviously they all plug in. And, you know, source the tapes and all that sort of stuff. But I had a look, and to be honest, the price you pay for the data sets now, it's really not worth it. And then you got to find the tapes. And if you do find them, some of them are a little bit pricey. So I went down a different route. I've ordered the Elk SD128, which is, in a nutshell, if you look on the back here, you've got a port here. It slots into here, and it's basically an SD card solution. It bumps the RAM up to 128K. And it's, you know, like I said, it's got an SD card, and it's also got a joystick port, because that's something else I should add. This never adds. It was never made for joysticks. You played the games with keys. At that point, the only way you could play with a joystick was if you bought the +1 extension, which plugged on the back, which then kind of made it look a bit like a micro. Then you could use a joystick, and I believe it had a couple of cartridge slots on it too. But like I say, I've ordered this Elk SD128. When that comes through, then it's a case of you can't put any bigger than an 8 gig SD card. Shouldn't need any more than that. You download a zip file, you put that on the, open it up, put it on the SD card, and that should give me access to the whole library of games. So again, it keeps it nice and compact, and that's what I like. This is the other reason why I didn't go with a data set. You know, I like the formality of this. I like the format, that it's small, and I want to keep it that way, you know. So SD Solution's definitely the best way around it. So this did come with a modern PSU, which is good, because I've got to be honest, I don't know if I'd want to trust the original ones. I've heard they're pretty good, but again, I'd rather have a more modern one, safer. And it did come with a game as well. I forget what game it was, but it was a tape game. Either way, I'll be playing that on the SD anyway, so, you know, when that comes through. So, yeah, really happy with this. I will be doing videos on this, guys. If you don't know about the Acorn Electron, or you've never seen any of the games, keep an eye on the channel, because I will definitely be playing some of these. And the first one's got to be Starship Command, because that's the one I got the nostalgia for. So, yeah. So, once again, another micro. So what's that now? I think I've got 3 micro systems. I'm not, you know, because I'm only counting the 8-bits here. So I think the next one I really want to try and get hold of is the Amstrad CPC464. And that's because I've got a curiosity for that. A friend had one growing up, and I've said this on the Micromaniacs, and one of my gaming memories. I won't go into the full story, but like I said briefly on Micromaniacs, it had an encounter with an orange, and it killed it, and so as a result, I never got a chance to experience it. I'd seen people playing them, but never had a go myself. So there's a bit of a curiosity there, and there's some homebrew coming out on it that looks fantastic, and it's got a wonderful colour palette. So yeah, I think that's probably the next micro system I'm going to be looking at. But before that, I'm going to get some time on this. So, and it won't just be this. As you know, guys, if you've been watching the channel, I do Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum. I do modern stuff as well occasionally, but majority of it's retro. And at the moment, the majority of it is micro. So if that's something you enjoy, give us a sub, give the video a like. We are on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So if you want to follow us on any of them, feel free. And until next time, take care, stay safe. Nerdy Geezer out.